this all came to be, I was driving through a neighborhood in like Pasadena. This was at the beginning of the year, and I saw they had a private patrol. And you know, all the mail thefts and everything we've been facing, I posted a poll on the Nextdoor site, and like over 200 people voted, and it was like 88% said yes. So I started researching, well, how would you pay for something like that? And I came across an improvement district. So I started reaching out to cities that actually implemented improvement districts. I called Pasadena, I called the city of Lancaster, reached out to cities up north, and I came across companies that actually helped form these improvement districts, and one of those companies was Civitas. I thought what we would do is have a meeting where we could do like a virtual meeting and be able to ask questions, because I really firmly believe in like getting information from the source. I didn't want to just continue to be this like middleman delivering information to the community. I know we all have questions. I want to be able to come together really as a community and problem solve and come together and work out some solutions for ourselves. I personally researched this and thought that it could be a really good solution for us. But again, this is a community thing. So I called up Civitas, and it was really cool. She said, I'll do you one better. I'll hop on a plane and I will come to the meeting. So we have Nicole. She's here to kind of tell everyone about what an improvement district is. I know when I first heard about it, I had no clue what improvement districts were until I sought to research them. But also I reached out to our city, and we have our finance director, Brent, here. He is the money guy. So I asked him to be here because there was a lot of questions in regards to the city's involvement when it comes to payment. How is that going to work? Where exactly are the monies going to go to? Things like that. So Brent is going to be here to be able to answer those questions for us. So without further ado, we're going to get right into it. Sorry, I really wanted to kind of have a little community pep rally. I know we advertised that, but we do have something special at the end. So I hope you guys can stick around, and then we're going to do a little something fun at the end. But right now we got to get straight to business. So I'm going to turn it over to Nicole.
Hi, thank you guys for having me, and sorry to delay the fun until after my presentation, but Ontario doesn't have very many flights that leave late in the evening, and I need to get home tonight. But just a little bit of background on our firm, Civitas. Our president and CEO, John Lambeth, did write the California state statute that allows for property and business improvement districts throughout the state. Those primarily focus on levying a property assessment in commercial corridors as well as business corridors to improve the business activity within them. But we've also seen cities such as San Bernardino take it under their charter authority to enable local ordinances to be able to do similar projects in residential communities where property owners such as yourselves want to get together to assess yourselves and your property for specific services that are unique to your district. So that's what I'm here to answer your questions about. I can do one of two things, is we can jump straight into your questions, or I can kind of walk you through how these, what I'm referring to as neighbor and community benefit districts, how they're established, how they operate, and how they're governed. So is there any direction on which way you'd like me to go?
I think you might indirectly answer some questions by starting with the information, is my suggestion.
Okay, so neighborhood and community benefit districts, they are a property assessment that is voted on by the property owners that will be paying the assessment. To get to that Prop 218 voting process, there are specific things that as property owners you need to outline in what we call a management district plan, and then sign a petition on before you ever get to that voting process. So in San Bernardino, if we wanted to establish one of these neighbor and community benefit districts, what the first thing we would need to do is ask the city to adopt an enabling ordinance to allow us to levy an assessment in a residential area. That is the first step. The second step would then be to meet with a steering committee of residents and property owners within a specific district or boundary that are looking to improve the services above and beyond what the city's currently providing through an assessment on your property. With this, we draft a management district plan, which outlines the boundaries of the district, what that assessment methodology is going to look like, and what that budget entails from that assessment methodology, and then what services are going to be provided with that money. And these services that we outline in the management district plan are what will be provided with that assessment funds through the term of the district. And that is another parameter that is determined by the property owners, is how long is this assessment going to be levied? Typically, it's up to 5 years in the first term, and then on renewal, if you guys are seeing benefit, because it does sunset, so you do have to go through a renewal process where you reevaluate all of the district parameters, is you can extend that term up to 10 years. But it would go back to the enabling ordinance to outline how long you guys could levy that assessment. But it's usually short windows. The services that are provided by these districts are typically clean and safe activities, so private security, maintenance of general areas, graffiti removal, trash pickup. We also, in the commercial corridors, see marketing and co-ops, co-branding, those type of activities. But being in a residential area, we primarily would see you guys focusing on clean and safe activities. But the final thing outside of the term of the district that you as property owners would determine would be the governance of that funding. You as residential property owners would determine the nonprofit organization that would be responsible for managing those funds. These funds are a clear pass-through through the county to the city to the nonprofit to be managed under not only the management district plan that is approved by the city, but also through a city contract to be managed according to that management district plan. So as assessment funds, they can't be diverted into the city funds for other general services because of the way these districts are established. So with that, once you guys determine your services, who's going to govern the fundings, what those services are going to be, the term, the budget, the boundaries, we'll draft a legal document, the management district plan, and then you as property owners sign a petition supporting that. With the neighborhood and community benefit districts, we look to have 30% of the proposed assessment value sign a petition in support of that management district plan. Once we're able to acquire 30% of the district in support, then we go to City Council and ask them to adopt a resolution of intent, which triggers a public notice and the Prop 218 ballot process, which the city would then mail out ballots to all of the property owners affected by the proposed assessment. And if we get a 50% return in ballots being supportive of the district and of the assessment, then the assessment is levied after the city adopts a resolution of formation onto your property tax onto your property tax bills. And then what?
The next question.
Yep.
You said 50%.
50% of the ballots returned.
Why isn't that a 2/3 requirement for this particular? Is this the way the law is written?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah. Because it's not a tax.
Oh, gotcha, okay.
Okay,
So,
what is it?
so this is not a
It's not a
tax.
tax.
It is an assessment.
And it's a tax on your property.
So it's an assessment. And
Yeah,
so the
it's an assessment that taxes.
So the difference between a tax and an assessment. A tax is usually a general fund filler. It goes to the city or to the county to be spent at the Board of Supervisors and the City Council's direction. An assessment has a specific and special benefit requirement attached to it that needs to be delivered to the payer that a tax does not have. So when we set up these districts as an assessment, that funding has to benefit you specifically as the payer. So that's why when we set these up, the services that you guys are essentially supporting through a petition process and then the voting process, if you vote yes, benefit you. So the private security has to benefit those in the district. It cannot be used to, that money cannot be used to fund private security outside of the boundaries that you guys established. And it can't be used to fund properties that aren't paying that assessment.
No, I get that, but my house gets broken into, but private security is 5 blocks away in the other direction.
How does that go when I paint?
You know, that is a tough question.
Yeah, it is a tough
Having,
question.
I mean, having private security above and beyond what the San Bernardino Police Department can provide within your neighborhood, it could be a deterrent to those breaking in if those who look to break into people's houses know that there's private security in the area. They may likely go to another neighborhood. Private security is seen as a deterrent, not as a stop-all. Those who want to break in are going to break in.
So basically, you're saying you want to assess our property to pay for private security, but it may not benefit you because...
I'm not saying that I want to assess you.
Does your company own a private security company?
Nope.
Or is it outside?
I think we get to vote on what private security we would want.
Yes.
They
Yes.
just establish it, and then we as a community say what
So
we want to
then
pay for.
you are the...
We just established the funding mechanism, so the Neighborhood and Community Benefit District, that pools these funds to benefit you, and you guys outline what those benefits are. And then
Okay.
you contract with the firm to provide those benefits. We don't do that. We leave that up to you guys, because you guys as residents and property owners know your community best, know what you need best, and can hire people and hold those people that you hire accountable for the funds you're spending with them. So one thing that commercial property owners do when they hire private security, it is to go above and beyond what the local police or county sheriffs can provide. And it's typically at night that the private security are patrolling these commercial corridors. If a property owner's alarm gets activated, it's the property owner's responsibility to work with their alarm company to know that they have private security, the sheriff, and the police department. The alarm company will automatically go in that order, depending on the day, to the private security officer and notify them of a break-in so that the private security can respond if they're on duty. They'll also notify the sheriff or the police department to respond as well. Typically, the private security, because they're in this designated boundary, are able to get there faster than the police department. And depending on the private security you hire, some do have a relationship with the police department where they can make citizen arrests. It all comes back to who you hire, though.
No, I understand that, but I work with 2 retired cops and security.
Okay.
Most of their hires had criminal records. Caught several times stealing. So I'm just kind of throwing that out there. I don't know how professional this private security company would be, but they are minimum wage jobs, and a lot of times they spend their time sitting in the
I don't know the
Do
private.
our due diligence and research. Just real quick, for those of you who might not have made it to the last meeting, I just wanted to run through a few facts real quick that the previous Lieutenant Madden shared with us. Right now in San Bernardino, there's 247 officers with the city. Only 118 of those officers are dedicated to patrol. That's not all at one time, because obviously officers are a 24/7 rotating schedule, correct? So on that Tuesday that we met, from 7 in the morning to 11 in the morning that day, there was only 11 cops on patrol in the entire city of San Bernardino. At 11 o'clock, second shift started and 9 more came on, or 12:30 actually, second shift started and 9 more came on. So there was only 20 cops on patrol for that entire day for our entire city. So I think definitely the patrol, for knowing those statistics and knowing that right now the city has already admitted that we're not in a position yet to really boost that up. The idea of this being a temporary 3 to 5 year until the city can resolve the problem on its own, have our own deterrent. Those are just the facts that he shared with us, and also an explanation as to why when we do call, they're not there in 5 minutes. They're where you put a tourniquet where it bleeds the most, and it's not in our area. They don't care about our mail theft. They don't care about our car break-ins. It's not their priority, understandably. Those are not, Category 1 issues. They have 41 detectives, and those are the ones who take the reports. 41 detectives in the city right now. They get over 60,000 police reports a year that are split up between 41 detectives.
And I don't want to take this as to like demean our San Bernardino
No,
Police Department.
it's just
at all.
where we
It's
are.
just, these are the facts. You know,
Yeah.
Lieutenant Madden was awesome when he came. And he mentioned, you know, to be sitting at our meeting talking about community patrol was hard for him. Because of course he is a police officer. He had 2 decades on the police force. He's retired now, unfortunately, because he was really awesome. But he said he spoke with the other police officers before he came to the meeting, and yeah, it was a bummer to hear communities having to talk about this. But unfortunately, it is what it is. You know, we can't sit here and point fingers. We're not going to sit here. Our police officers put their lives on the line every single day. It is not our police department's fault that our city went through a bankruptcy. It's not. What this is about is us coming together as a community and saying, what can we do to help out as a community? Instead of pointing fingers, unfortunately, we can't say, we need to boost up police. We need, yes, we do.
Even if we did, we pay for it in retrospect by an increased tax anyways, right? Because
the
the
money has
tax
to
is
come from
funded.
somewhere.
Right now, you're gonna pay twice.
Huh?
Sorry, what?
You're gonna pay twice. No, what you're saying is we want you to pay twice.
I look at it like this, the improvement district, when we discussed numbers in the last meeting and Kim broke it down, was an average of like $13 per month per household. When I think about what I spend $13 a month on, I would happily pay to know that if there was a creep or something coming up my lawn, that I had a phone number to call or text and say, hey, can you just drive by? Because there are certain security companies that offer services as little and as big as we want, whatever we're willing to pay for.
And one thing that to mention, like you're asking about the security, you have experience. You know, I don't have experience, and I think I won't put anyone else, but there are other people here that have experience. But,
Most of them are.
okay,
There are some good ones out there.
Yeah.
maybe you
Depending
could be
upon what
integral.
type of job they are doing.
Yeah.
Okay, depending upon what type of job they are doing. You're talking about a security guard that is working in an area where you have highly sensitive information. But when you're talking about a security guard that's driving around a neighborhood,
Well, it depends on what we hire, you get what you pay for. If we hire a minimum wage,
One
they
thing
don't
that we
run
talk
that
but
much.
I
about-
don't think it will be $13 per month.
We did the research
Yeah.
on the high end, these security guards are $30 per hour. So that's not a low budget security guard, and that was at the high end.
$13
We don't have to go for that, again, we have to decide as a community. But I did go on the higher end. I did call up numerous security companies. Some I did not even get quotes for, I did not bother for, because they just did sound very unprofessional. So the quotes that I got, there was 3 different ones, and they were from the ones, again, that I just thought were more professional. They hired ex-police officers, they hired veterans. Those were the companies that I did get quotes from. As far as the selection process, we haven't selected anything because we haven't actually formed an improvement district. When it comes to the selection process, I would like members of the community that have that background experience, that have that expertise. Hopefully people that are in law enforcement in our communities could assist with this. They could be the ones that are vetting the security patrol companies that we ultimately use. That's what I would recommend. I personally don't want to be responsible for that. I am leading this as far as the idea. I'm the one that had the idea, I'm the one that researched it, but I'm not saying I'm choosing the security company. The reason that we host these meetings is so that we can all come together and we can talk about it, and we can all kind of problem solve through this together.
Would this be 24 hours a day?
That's what I'm proposing. You know, some people have said that they think that maybe it should be less. The reason I propose 24 hours because now crime is happening at different times. Before, I know, I got broken into, and it was at the times when criminals expected you to be at work, and me and my husband were at work. But now I'm seeing people getting broken into at 8 o'clock at night, 4 o'clock in the morning, someone got broken into. Unfortunately, now the tides have changed. So I think, for me personally, I think 24/7 would be useful.
And the quote was for two
Two
patrols,
patrols,
24/7.
24/7, and armed
You ever
patrols.
said that some of these security firms or these guys will make $30 an hour?
That's what
So they-
they're.
Depending upon if we chose like armed or unarmed, and those are still like unanswered
That's pretty
questions,
good.
yeah.
That's pretty good pay.
Yeah.
But those people making $30 an hour, so that's still gonna cost us only $13.
I'm sorry,
Was
it
it
was 15.
Oh,
It was
15, I'm
15.
sorry, I misquoted.
And that was with no one.
13 for.
15, it was 15, sorry. I was
15 per
Because,
month.
and she can explain that, because in forming an improvement district, of course, there's costs with running a nonprofit. So all those costs, I did detail on the FAQs on the Verdemont Revitalization Project website. And those are the costs without any additional, as a community, we had talked about like doggy bags for the dog poop that's along the neighborhood, to put like waste receptacles or doggy bags in the parks and on the trail. We talked about things like that, graffiti cleanup above and over what the city offers. But again, those are things that we would have to decide as a community. As Nicole was saying, first we need to even see, do we want this? This is now the third meeting that I have hosted just to see what my neighbors feel about this. A lot of the response has been positive, but I know many of you here have concerns. So this is why we're here tonight, so that we can talk about it and get those concerns answered.
And just to clarify, I mean, this is just us making a decision for ourselves. Nobody's imposing anything on us, right?
No,
Okay.
you can't, because it has to be voted upon.
Okay, so I just wanted to make sure
Yeah.
that we're all on the
To
same
be,
page on that.
to be fair though, if only 60% vote yes, that 40% no longer have an option.
Right,
So
exactly.
those, yes, they are.
So in that sense, yes.
Because it's not 100% voted.
But I don't see everybody that lives in Verdemont.
No.
Yeah.
And perhaps my neighbors have no idea what you're talking about, because I talked to them about it there, yeah.
And that's what's unfortunate, because again, this is a third meeting. We're trying to reach as many. I see new faces here, which is great, but
Will there be any kind of flyers sent out or anything
Well,
like
yeah,
that?
that's what she.
that's what she's talking about.
So, but you work for a company that actually advertises to bring tourism into the city, correct?
Well, that is one part of what we do at Civitas. We, in addition to establishing property assessment districts, we also do tourism improvement districts. And what tourism improvement districts do is they levy an assessment on the hotels, and the hotels elect to assess themselves, because what they're doing is they're generating funds to benefit their business. Just like if you guys were to elect to assess yourselves, you guys would be generating funds to benefit your properties through specific services. And it doesn't happen overnight. Usually we estimate it takes about 12 months. The first 6 months, what we're doing is we're doing outreach and education. We're doing meetings just like this. We're going door to door. And this isn't Civitas going door to door. This is a steering committee of residents going door to door, talking about what they're doing, what they want to do, why they want to raise these funds, what services they think their community needs, and they're trying to build support for the district. While you guys are going door to door and campaigning for this district, we are drafting out the management district plan based on the feedback that we're hearing from the community. Once that management district plan is finalized, then that steering committee gets to go back out and go door to door again and have meetings just like this, asking you guys as property owners to sign a petition in support of the district, so that they can go to city council to ask city council to do that Prop 218 ballot process, where the city would then send out a ballot for you guys to vote yes or no. And it takes time. It takes easily 12 months, if not longer, to do this. And I've been talking, how long have we been talking now?
Quite a few months.
Yeah, we've been talking for a while
The first
now.
meeting I had was at the V&E in February, I believe, and then we had another one in June, and now we're having another one.
And this is before we're even engaged in helping guide the outreach and education process. There's still a lot that you guys as a community want to do, and there are still ducks you need to get in a row before you even want to bring us in. Because the last thing that I want to do is to get you guys involved in this type of project, knowing that there's clear and a majority opposition to providing these type of services through an assessment funding model. I'm not here to, enter into an agreement with the city or with your guys' neighborhood group, because that would be wasting all of our time and all of our resources.
Are there assessment groups, communities in the Inland Empire that we could, model after or see how they're doing? Are there any of the communities in San Bernardino?
No, we would actually be a precedent for San Bernardino.
Pardon?
We would actually be a precedent for
Okay,
San
how about
Bernardino.
surrounding cities?
Now Pasadena, maybe you can get some for
How
neighborhood.
closer to here, like Redlands or?
So what you guys are looking at doing with the residential assessment is actually very new. San Diego is the closest and their maintenance assessment districts allows for residential assessments. The property and business improvement district law, which is state statute, which we typically use in commercial corridors, explicitly excludes residential properties, which is why we're looking at working with the city to draft an enabling ordinance, for a neighborhood and community benefit district to allow for that residential assessment. So it's very new, it's very novel. We don't have a lot of residential groups as strong and as active as you guys are wanting to provide services to your
And what I'd like to note, one thing that was interesting to learn, because a lot of people like talk about Rancho Cucamonga, like the land of milk and honey. We know we all love Rancho, but Brent, maybe you could add to this. A lot of people love Rancho, but don't understand. They may not have improvement districts, but what the city has done is impose assessment districts on Rancho. So they have a fire assessment, they have a park assessment, they have numerous different assessments. And what I liked personally about this is, we're not waiting for the city to come in and do these things and pose things on us that we won't be able to control where the benefit is going to. When it comes to this, it is something that is we're creating for us. We deem the services that are being paid by this.
Is that HOA that's already there?
This isn't an HOA.
No, in
No.
Rancho Cucamonga, aren't those HOAs?
No, those aren't HOAs. That's something different.
So what you're saying is they're assessing people for parks?
They have park assessments, they have fire assessments.
Which, how do you get around Prop 13?
You'd have to ask the city of Rancho. I don't know. I have not researched that.
A lot of the,
It goes back to assessment.
and I don't know from Rancho Cucamonga specifically, but when they were developed, they're a newer community, and they're developing, so before houses get built, it's easy to get a majority vote of the landowners, because it's one guy owns the whole tract he's going to develop, and so he chooses to say yes because the city makes a condition they don't want to put new development in without being able to pay the way and maintain the quality of life that they want to enjoy. San Benito is an older city community, that's my words, and so that's a hurdle or a challenge we have to deal with, is that a lot of the city is developed, and so these new techniques to generate resources to provide the kind of quality of life you're talking about aren't in most of the areas here. So I don't think Redlands has any of that right now. So so I guess that's just the challenge you have to decide. And so this whole discussion, I think that she's having, this is trying to vet and see. And so tough questions are good, but it's not like someone's trying to convince you to do this. I don't think. It's just simply trying to provide information to see whether it's nothing you want to do or not. And so a lot of, as you were saying too, that a lot of the things you have to decide are not even city decisions. They're things that I guess it's the nonprofit that would manage this district, if you decided collectively to do that, would make those decisions, and you would hold that management group accountable then. Similar to you ought to hold the city accountable things that we're tasked to do then. So anyway, so it's more an extension of you than it is. The city facilitates, receives the money from the tax bill. So you're saying it's not a tax, it's an assessment, but to you, it's all the same thing because it's on your tax bill. But there is a distinction that there's a benefit to you that somebody down on Southeast Street's not getting because you have the benefit of a patrol. That may or may not actually help you in your case, you may be broken into, but idea, well, it could be, the point is that if you want to, and if you don't think there's enough value to it, then of course you would never vote yes for it then. But that's the whole idea. People think there's a deterrent to having patrol, and generally most people would think, yeah, if there's a car driving around, I'm going to go somewhere else to do my shenanigans. Maybe not, I don't know, but that's a decision the group has to decide, and ultimately if the steps proceed and you get half the people that want to say yes to it, then that's one of the challenges you'll have to have too, is that you can draw the line around this district largely however you want to draw that. And so say here's Verdemont in a circle, that's an easy picture to draw, but if the upper half of that is less supportive for whatever reasons, and the lower half supportive, so maybe you don't do this whole circle, maybe it's the lower half of the circle. Maybe it's you cut out this piece of the pie because they're not, but these are. It has to be contiguous, is that correct? For these? It is, okay, so there's an advantage also that
we can't gerrymander one property in the middle.
But if this neighborhood within the Verdemont thing is generally speaking, I don't think so. That's not us. You could carve that out, make it not a part of the district, and then the rest could. So again, you can't go house by house and say in out. That's not going to fly. But generally speaking, if you have consensus to where the group as a whole wants to move forward, but you have an area, maybe it's 3 where I don't know. But anyway, you have to sort that out later in details. But the idea is to try and find if the group saw a benefit in it and want to pursue it, then there's an avenue by which you can fund that, where you're not having to go door to door pass the hat. You put in place a mechanism to where my office and folks at City Hall can levy on the property tax bill. It's a mechanism to collect that's fairly assured because people pay their property taxes generally, and therefore the money comes in. That $100 that comes in from your house, $100, $15 a month, whatever it is, would come in, and so everyone's $15 comes in for every month. It comes in twice a year like property tax, but I get that check. The county gives us enough detail and distinction to know this is the neighborhood improvement district for the Verdemont area, whatever you call it, and we see that on the check, and we set that aside in a separate bucket, and then weekly, monthly, whatever the process is, then if the funds flow to the not-for-profit, we would cut a check and send that through. We have assessment districts in town already that we do. When you develop a neighborhood, you may have some of those on your property tax bill now. We account for all of those separately, and the lighting and landscaping things that are designed to be funded through that get funded directly, and they don't go to other costs for park and rec or safety or whatever they get to do for lighting and landscaping and maintenance. So we have plenty of mechanism in place to track those dollars, put them in their unique separate bucket. It could be audited, it could be whatever needs to be done. That's not a complicated task for my office to do, because all the information comes to us from the county with all the information and differentiators to know this $100 belongs here, this $100 belongs over there.
And to go back to your question, these assessments don't apply to Prop 13 because it's funding a specific service. It's not a tax, it's an assessment. And all of those the fire assessment has its own board. The water district has its own board, and they're all typically elected by those assessment payers. So this would have something very similar. They have its own board, which you guys as assessment payers would elect or appoint that board however the bylaws are written. The difference between a fire district or a water district and this district is those districts are public agencies, while this district is public funds, but it's a private nonprofit. So it's a private-public partnership, and there is government oversight to make sure that those funds are being spent accordingly. But it is a nonprofit organization as opposed to the fire district and the water districts, which are government agencies.
I have a question. Anyway, all right, so you said government oversight. You would avoid, no offense to the city, San Bernardino from overseeing this just because of previous management.
What are you talking about?
So I'll explain that a little bit more. The oversight actually is on an annual basis. The nonprofit with the assessment funds has to provide a report to council, a forward-looking report of what their budget is going to be, what the services they're going to be providing. Again, has to be near the management district plan, and the city council just approves it. So that is the oversight, and then that also goes out to all the stakeholders.
But you said 5 to 10 years, usually 5
Up to
years,
5.
and then you can extend it for 2 to 10 years.
Yep.
Can you raise those rates within those first 5 years?
If it's in the management district plan, you can.
A nonprofit organization, do those people receive HMO?
No. If they hire an executive director or contract for an executive director to oversee the services that that district is providing, then of course they're
Then where do
hiring
the funds come from?
the,
Be part of those funds.
Part of the
so
assessment
part of the
funds.
$15 would be administrative
And
costs.
me personally, in researching this, I don't think that we need something like what maybe a PBID, a Property and Business Improvement District has, because I looked at Pasadena specifically, and I think they were paying administrative fees of like, I don't remember, I'm sorry, because I started this year, but it was like $40,000 or $30,000. I don't see that that's a need for us. We are not dealing with restaurants and lots of shops and things of that nature. So I would not agree to anything like that. I don't think we need to be paying a salary like that to anybody. I'm going to be honest, I'm researching this, but I do not want to be in charge of this. I'm letting that be known. So I hope that somebody else in the community steps up and takes the reins. That would be really great. I personally would not mind paying somebody, because from what I'm understanding, somebody's going to have to be responsible for like the nonprofit taxes, like filing the taxes, because it's a nonprofit, it's a legal entity, so we have oversight from the IRS, which we have to be concerned about. So I wouldn't mind, of course, paying somebody to handle that. I think that's reasonable. But I think a reasonable fee for that, you know, maybe you could give a reasonable fee, I don't know, but I don't think $30,000-$40,000 per year is reasonable for that.
And you have like your board of directors isn't compensated, but you do need to have board and officers insurance. You do need to have an accountant. You will want probably other type of insurance to indemnify the nonprofit, just as any nonprofit would have. So yeah, it could be a board managed organization. It doesn't, you don't have to have. Huh?
Does draw income
No,
for that $15.
The board itself, if I was a board member, I would not draw